This video is a true story of how my mentally ill son died of corruption. The following clip shows a copy of text sent to Fayette County, Kentucky court clerk. The following screen shows a topical overview of this video. The following 2-minute 15-second slideshow details video agenda. Worrisome too is the fact that I complained to the authorities about Crystal to no avail.
My son, Charles Brandon Chatfield, died by corruption and a sadist financial serial killing narcissist sadist judge and his sadist mother and her sadist attorneys.
Missed in our motion, and the child in his own affidavit does not deny that he's missed that much school. And
oh, I didn't. Is there a child's affidavit in the file?
that's the.
Oh, okay. That isn't what I saw. I saw the defendant's answer. I thought that's what you were talking
On the
about.
very back of that Exhibit B, that's the child.
Oh, I don't have an Exhibit B in mine.
A&M Catherine Lear's attorney, Crystal Osborne, adds a terroristic statement, saying that there cannot be any statement against her client in the file.
He's got a letter from Dr. Graniker. We have a letter from the child's other therapist. I mean, we're not going to have these competing letters in the file, but
1. Abuse of Brandon. 2. Bias. 3. Terrorism. 4. Extremist control. 5. Narcissist judge. 6. Financial serial killing. 7. Spoliation of court records.
In just the first few minutes of this first hearing, the stage is set for terrorism. Someone removed Brandon's affidavit. I suspect Wilma Lyncy. The clerk of court did that.
The most perfect crime is to avoid being caught by resigning as a hidden agenda, and belongs as part of our legal system, thus making illegal legal. The ISIS recruited and selected Judge Lucinda Masterton to be their judge because she was the most well-qualified, because in reality she was the least qualified. In this next movie clip you can see how Judge Lucinda Masterton is totally unfit to be a judge. But the ISIS is happy.
Next clip shows the judge and plaintiff attorney conducted ex parte causing court order prejudice.
It's prejudicial and it makes no sense.
And I've explained this, that my reasoning was based largely on Ms. Britton's representation to me that this particular property is a barnacle on her ability to settle this case, to make because it is out there on Kathy's credit, and it hamstrings her from making an offer. That is what am I understanding that correctly?
Understood me correctly.
This is an example that shows how things are done in this court.
In this last clip, a criminal conspiracy to force the sale of this property was the hidden agenda. The judge displays a loss of contact with reality by stating she was violating the law by ex parte. Anita controlled the judge. Anita the judge and Kathy guilty of criminal conspiracy. The underlying conspiracy was to force the sale of Maxwell so I'd lose income to support our son.
This introduction includes 2 screens which describe high-level narcissists and sadists. Judge Lucinda Masterton is both a narcissist and a sadist. Evidence of her psychopathology is presented in the video clips in this movie. Extreme injustice. Objectification was theme in this divorce. Defendant humiliated. Defendant 18 months without a car while my wife had 3 cars. She controlled.
Where are we on the Honda?
The Honda, I mean, I know that Ross doesn't want it, but where that leads us, I don't know. Like, he didn't ask Kathy to buy it for him, she bought it for him, he's not gonna refuse to take it, you know, to drive throughout the pendency of this action because, you know, it was that or a beat up white pickup truck, and that was obviously nicer, but for, it's not worth $11,000 to him. And so, and Kathy bought it. Like, it also seems as though, I don't even know if they're even trying to attribute any marital value to that. It seems like maybe they're claiming that that's something that Kathy bought with her 2009.
We are saying she paid for it. She paid for it during the period of separation. We're not asking that the court consider the period of separation. We're saying it's $11,000, that's the value of it, and she bought it for Ross because you can see the emails and you have them. Just that one that went into the record on the Camry. He says, I don't have a vehicle. Brandon and I are sharing a vehicle. So Kathy went out and bought a vehicle, and he's been using it for the last year and a half. And now he doesn't want it. Well, she sure doesn't need it. So what's he going to do? What's he going to do? So this is what her position is, just like she testified to yesterday. If she doesn't get that car to Ross, Brandon is not going to take the Mercedes to college because that leaves Ross without a vehicle. And Kathy wants him to take the Mercedes so he'll have a vehicle in college.
But I mean, Ross can get his own vehicle.
Well then, okay, here's what I want to do. I'll award him the Honda at $11,000. He can trade it in, it's his.
Kathy purchased this car without my knowledge and consent, knowing the judge loved to objectify me. My wife would of course never spend $11,000 if she thought she would risk losing that money. Everyone knows if you sell a car and buy a new one, you will lose at least 20% of the value.
We expressly acknowledged at that hearing that
the seal that's on this record, the scope of it, does not apply to non-minor children-related.
You know, I understand that, but that was the concern.
This judge sanctioned my attorney, charging him $2,000. After this incident, my attorney balked at my future requests, saying he was afraid of a sanction. The order following this hearing says that my wife would ultimately decide sanction. So you can see the judge is telling my attorney to play ball with my wife or else.
This shows the development of Kathy's tax avoidance scheme.
When he transferred this from them to Ross, you know, this is actually in Ross Chatfield LLC.
Right. He cooked up a little corporation for it.
If he hadn't done that, and it was in Ross Chatfield, and we had to do a quitclaim deed, Kathy would take this at $60,000 basis. But because they've refinanced and put money into it, we think that by doing a regular deed, warranty deed, it will be valued at $190,000. And she won't have that tax. So that's why we wanted to put quitclaim deed or other similar instrument.
Okay.
However, you know, Kathy's brother does this for a living. I got to think we can rely on him
Figure out the best way
to
to do
figure
it.
out so that she doesn't have to pay taxes.
Okay.
And
Since Kathy couldn't get her brother to write this deed, she hired a different lawyer to get the just fix the code violations. She remodeled the whole building.
In my position that it was unreasonable that I would have to pay it at all.
Okay. All right. I understand your argument.
And
What about the specific cost? Do you have any concerns about the specific costs? She's come up with about $3,200 worth. If you look at the bills, she's not charging for everything. She's got everything itemized and attached to the reference to the code violation.
Well, I had several prices myself done, and Kathy has paid 4 or 5 times as much as the prices that I got from licensed contractors.
Well, how come you didn't have it done?
She had control of it. She locked me out of the building.
I mean, how come you didn't have it done a year ago?
I didn't have the money. And these, like this, she brings up this furnace problem. That wasn't a code violation. The fact that somebody found a cracked heat exchanger, that's wear and tear you'd expect over 20 years. So I wouldn't be charged for wear and tear on a building. And the fact that she locked me out and I couldn't perform any work, that would raise the cost 5 times. You know, this universal maintenance is owned by Rick Bryant, her brother-in-law.
Could have replaced that furnace and done all the code repairs for less than $7,000.
The judge ordered me to pay $22,000. My wife used her brother-in-law, who overcharged for his work. I did not do the repairs earlier, since wife spent the money I borrowed to do that on other things. A year earlier, judge ordered wife spending money I borrowed to do this job for other things.
A key characteristic of a narcissist is the use of magical thinking.
Next clip, judge says to defendant it is magic, which is a narcissist response.
Dehumanization is exactly what it sounds like. A narcissist will mentally strip away everything about someone that might be considered a human trait. In their mind, they will try to turn them from living, breathing individuals into mere abstract entities that they can manipulate and use like they would anything else in their environment.
I think it drives Joe crazy. Yeah, I think it must. So.
For narcissist sadists, triumph is their ultimate aim. even if someone has to get hurt in the process. They are interested in hurting, degrading, demeaning, and inflicting agony upon others. And making someone else grovel is not only the major way sadists secure the dominant position in their relationships, but also an activity they truly
Incredibly
enjoy.
complicated, obviously. I don't want, you know, I mean, everybody gets all up in arms about it, but the point is, I think it's compounded by the fact that Ross doesn't, you know, I believe you that Ross got stuff in December and didn't know what to do with it and round filed it or something, you know, that would not be surprising. So,
Judge Masterton performed on her stage, frequently waving her arms, ranting. She'd imagine a party might do something demonstrating her magical insight and denigrating the party.
Judge Masterton is an enforcing sadist. These sadists hold official positions like a police officer, warden, college dean who seek out perceived rule breakers, and by doing so she exercises the worst punishments she can give out for an individual case.
about. The person I am appointing is Dwayne Osborne. Dwayne is the person who has taught probably everybody else in this state how to be a guardian ad litem. He suffers no fools, and he has taught probably to more kids on a one-to-one basis in this role than probably everybody else combined. And he knows when kids have been coached, when kids have been pressured. He has an amazing radar for that. So my caution to you both is don't.
In most of the hearings, Judge Masterton lies, but she lies by exaggerating the truth. Narcissists exaggerate in order to try to look more important or more powerful.
The judge shows her prejudice. She says, I make things up as I go along.
Just, you know, he's got to be more careful. He's got to pay attention more. And this has been a problem with Ross throughout. Perhaps if I didn't have the whole history of this case, Mr. Wolf. But Ross kind of makes everything up as he goes along.
The following movie clip is an example of a narcissist judge exhibiting her body language, waving her arms and smiling, making fun of and shaming a party by predicting what he is likely to do.
Now this is where I'm going to say this out loud, because I don't want Ross coming in here with waving a bill that then Kathy paid, and Ross is saying he ought to get paid back for it. And Ross is just disorganized enough that he might do that. So I want...
This judge is showing how she expresses inappropriate effect to her office as judge. MSN report. Experts say we are in an epidemic of narcissism. They constantly denigrate others.
In this video clip, the judge sanctions my attorney.
Significant time responding to what could only be characterized, in her words, I agree, as a rambling mess from you. It was very difficult for me to even understand what the heck you were asking for.
I mean, there's two places where I asked for the court to amend the order.
But I didn't understand why. It didn't make any sense, and it still doesn't make any sense, because in fact, there's nothing that has happened to bring this to the court's attention. That's why it's a waste of time, Mr. Wolf. Nothing happened.
Your Honor.
Now, you all then used it as an opportunity through your client's affidavit to sling a bunch of insults, which then got into the court record.
This judge sanctioned my attorney, charging him $2,000. After this incident, my attorney balked at my future requests, saying he was afraid of a sanction. The order following this hearing says that my wife would ultimately decide sanction. So you can see the judge is telling my attorney to play ball with my wife or else.
Of course, I'm not privy to that. What I am privy to is the fact that he wouldn't cooperate with her when I ordered him to. And
this is another example of how extremely over-controlling Judge Masterton behaved in disregard of me. Several court documents show that Judge Masterton took revenge because I would not obey her as God. Without my knowledge and consent, Martha attempted to involve my adult daughter in this divorce.
There exists an abundance of evidence that Judge Masterton was party to corruption.
The following is one of many examples showing how the judge is controlled by the cult of the court. The following movie clip is an example of a narcissist judge exhibiting her body language, waving her arms and smiling, making fun of and shaming a party by predicting what he is likely to do.
now this is where I'm going to say this out loud, because I don't want Ross coming in here with waving a bill that then Kathy paid, and Ross is saying he ought to get paid back for it. And Ross is just disorganized enough that he might do that. So I want...
The next video clip show both narcissism and sadism exhibited. Her sadism is reflected in her punishing defendant because of her narcissistic imagination. True, so essentially she is showing her orders are based upon her magically thinking, and not on evidence presented.
May I be heard, Your Honor, please?
Pardon?
May I be heard on just one
Okay.
question I've got about that? The $86,000 and the $15,000. I think it's undisputed the $86,000 that Kathy supposedly loaned to Ross. She was loaning him marital property, and the court is saying he should pay back marital property now.
What happened is that came out of the equity of the house.
Marital property, Your Honor.
Sure, and what I'm doing is paying him back marital property. He has to pay back marital property. I'm crediting it against the mortgage.
Let me do that. But this is in the absence of any indication that he did anything with any one penny of that money other than try to make money in the business. There's no evidence.
Okay, let me talk about it. Maybe I do need to address that. The reason that I am giving Kathy a larger percentage of everything is because I believe that what Ross did over the course of many years is squander inordinate amounts of money.
Notice in last clip Judge Masterton ignored responding to my attorney on the issue he objected. This is one of many times this judge ignored the rule of law and based her decision on imagination. Clearly, this judge has already decided the outcome of this trial based on her imaginations. Next clip, the judge is again predicting the future, saying the answer is to totally control me. My attorney rejects her. She is mad and says she is going to put me on the street in 6 months.
With it. I don't know that that helps us. I mean, I feel as though we're kind of in a quandary here. Because how can I ignore the fact that he's not going to have any income now? And that he's walked away from an income-producing property. So I think...
You wouldn't. I think you would deem him to have that income, whatever it is, if he asks for maintenance.
Well, then the problem is then he can't ask for maintenance. I mean, you know, so we're sort of hoisted on our own petard here.
I understand. What can I do?
Well, I think
Here's what I think needs to happen. Now, this is totally out of left field, guys. I think Ross has really deteriorated. In my view, watching him testify yesterday was a very sad experience. This is a man who is losing his marbles at a rapid rate. I think that this litigation has been terrible for him. I think that the emotional and intellectual toll on him as a consequence of the unremitting pressure of this litigation has been extraordinary and sad. And I feel terrible about it. It's a very sad thing. He is a shell of what he was 2 years ago, and he wasn't completely tightly wrapped 2 years ago. Whatever the number is at this point, I'm concerned about handing him anything that isn't locked up in some way that he has. Yeah, I think it would be irresponsible. Frankly, you know, some kind of an arrangement that pays him an annuity. I mean, this is Kathy's business. You know, if you could figure out some sort of a settlement here that would give Ross an income from an annuity, what a spectacular idea that would be. How original is that? I'm sure that they've thought about this a million times. I don't know that, but that's her business. How could they not have?
As certain as I am that Ross is not going to ask the court for maintenance, I am much more certain he's not going to entertain that at all.
All right.
I would think that is something that might work in a lot of circumstances. I think that's unfortunately something I don't put any percent chance of anything like that.
Well, my fear is that Ross is going to be a street person in half a year.
In next clip, the judge ordered me to get an attorney within 7 days. This order came immediately after I filed a complaint against my wife in this court. I realize now that the judge needed me to get an attorney because she could control him but not me.
The judge is not going to talk to me anymore. I'll have to have an attorney, and I got a week to get one.
Be addressed.
Well, if it's agreeable with you, Judge, that we can do this as soon as I get an attorney, we can talk about it.
Well, that's not, I can't let you do it that way, because you could say you can't get an attorney for 10 years. I'm not going to say that, okay? I will say that I would like you to be back in here next week with an attorney so that we can talk about all this. Okay, let me get a calendar, make sure we...
In this next clip, this judge says I should not get anything.
The judge is telling my attorney it won't do him any good to continue to try to do discovery.
I will be upfront with you all. I think Ross is going to have a really, really hard time saying that he is entitled to anything, certainly after Brandon emancipated, that Kathy earned. I think
In next clip, Anita says that I filed to get freedom of speech because judge had ordered not free.
Attorney, Miss Britton, is criticizing my attorney, Joe Wolf, for motioning freedom of speech should be permitted. The judge had ruled that we wouldn't have the right for freedom of speech.
On December the 2nd, he filed a motion to allow freedom of speech. On January the 4th...
Is beyond belief is that a judge would rule that I would not have freedom of speech.
I had to file this since judge ordered us to family counseling, but we were not allowed to talk there. This shows how over-controlling and crazy this case had become. Next clip, judge tells my attorney that since he will not do what she wants, he will not get paid.
You're over practicing the case, in summary. Okay? Her client's under oath. Her client has answered these questions, it sounds like. You've gotten your answers. You can practice this however you want to. I'm not telling you how to practice the case. You do what you want to. But I will tell you, I'm not going to give you fees for this stuff. Let's just be clear about that.
Basically, the judge is telling my attorney that he doesn't need to work so hard on this. She's already figured out how it's going to turn out.
Next clip show collusion with Crystal and Judge, which cost me $150,000.
It's absolutely clear that Crystal and Joe have colluded.
What I told you in court doesn't necessarily have to be. If people want to hear it, they can get the record, but, you know, I think what we can probably do is just say that I'm not awarding attorney fees based on the way the case was progressed, and I think that's probably enough.
And if you're going to take that issue up on appeal, you have a...
Joe left me holding the bag when Joe sued me for $150,000, and he won.
This shows a conspiracy which follows trial when Judge wanted my distribution controlled. But this court video was purposefully erased so to hide evidence. I have witnesses who told me that this court often edits or deletes court videos. Very difficult to file an appeal if you have no proof of what happened in court.
Clear that part of this video, the end of it, has been deleted.
Joe, you would be doing Ross such a disservice if you let him take this money without some kind of restriction on it.
This is collusion.
Next clip, judge says no complaints against Kathy unless approved by counsel first. I complained to the Department of Insurance and the Child Protection Agency. Under the law, I have the right to make these complaints.
This letter is from a forensic expert witness.
Nuts! No more complaints about Kathy to anybody. Unless you have sought counsel first.
Next clip shows this judge exaggerating, saying I should not call 911 for my son threatening suicide. My son died because my wife would not call 911 for him.
Some stuff that you're doing that is completely inappropriate. I'm talking. The fact that you're constantly calling 911, what's that about? That's just nonsensical.
In this next clip, the question of sexual arousal and sadism has operated in court. At the minimum, this judge's behavior is not at all within normal boundaries.
Sexual sadism disorder is the condition of experiencing sexual arousal in response to the extreme pain, suffering or humiliation of others. There is evidence that Judge Masterton has exhibited extreme sadism, and the choice of her wording in reference to males suggests some arousal may have been present or associated with these instances.
You might ask, why didn't you report this to the authorities? I did that to no avail. It is all a cover-up. They cannot afford to let the public know how so many are suffering and dying. They call it in the name of preserving judicial integrity.
don't particularly, enjoy reading it myself, but, and I don't plan on showing it off to people, but
You're not going to frame you wallpaper your bathroom with copies of it? Is that
Right.
Well, that's fine. I mean, it's
Last clip out with court decorum in favor of Judge Masterton's party theatrics.
Fromm says mental sadism may be disguised in many seemingly harmless ways: a question, a smirk, confusing remarks.
Judge Masterton is the modern-day version of Jekyll and Hyde.
everything Ross is getting in this divorce is pre-tax money. It's pre-income tax money, the retirement accounts. So not only, is he getting a substantially less amount from the marital estate, but the amount he is getting, 100% of it is going to be taxed. So, that right there cuts us $270,000 down 30%. And
not at his age and not with, no.
Well, he's got an $80,000 loss carry forward. I doubt seriously he's going to have to pay any taxes. But that said, I tried to explain to Joe yesterday, the court doesn't have jurisdiction to order you to give her $50,000. He's got retirement funds. That's all he's got. And the court, you can't order her to get a mortgage. No jurisdiction over that.
And I mean, if that's the case, that's the case. I have in other cases, in another case I've been on, I've definitely seen the court, Justice Schrader, order equalizing payments, and it may come from retirement, it may come elsewhere. It's just, an equalizing payments ordered, and
Yeah, but we don't need to do that in this case.
I had to abandon management of the Maxwell property because I was financially unable to continue.
Sale of Maxwell, I'm a little confused because I thought that we all agreed, let's start with Maxwell first. I thought we all agreed that he wasn't going to have anything to do with it, that Kathy was going to take it over and nothing was going to happen.
This property should have been immediately auctioned. But instead, they let Kathy cause condemnation. This caused me to suffer 4 more months in court and a loss of $100,000.
I would say would be the easiest thing to do is maybe have Linda make
those
and then just take our names off of it.
Okay.
They don't need us to sign them.
Well, that's true.
And court can enter it today.
That would be fine. That work? Yes?
And then we have no responsibility here, Your Honor.
Excellent. It's all on my broad shoulders.
Exactly right.
Okay.
This judge did not give any consideration to my being the custodial parent throughout our marriage.
With adding that language, I think it's clear that Ross made a bunch of money.
Okay.
The question is whether it amounted to anything in the long run, and I think that's covered in the couple of sentences afterward. Okay. The fact is he made a bunch of money. Kathy said that, but it doesn't mean that we got anything today as a consequence of it. So I don't have any problem adding that to it.
My attorney, Joe Wolf, did not even object to this contribution argument. Why? I was not even informed of this hearing. I fired my attorney after this hearing. There is an abundance of evidence my attorney colluded with the judge and Kathy's attorney. In addition to his problem, the judge and Crystal pressured Joe to do as they told him to do. Court decorum replaced with court sadist murder talk.
This shows the development of Kathy's tax avoidance scheme.
When he transferred this from them to Ross, this is actually in Ross Chatfield LLC.
Right. He cooked up a little corporation for it.
If he hadn't done that, and it was in Ross Chatfield, and we had to do a quitclaim deed, Kathy would take this at $60,000 basis.
Mm-hmm.
But because they've refinanced and put money into it, we think that by doing a regular deed, warranty deed, it will be valued at $190,000. And she won't have that tax. So that's why we wanted to put quitclaim deed or other similar instrument.
Okay.
However, Kathy's brother does this for a living. I got to think we can rely on him.
Figure out the best way to do it.
Figure out so that she doesn't have to pay taxes.
Okay.
And
Since Kathy couldn't get her brother to write this deed, she hired a different lawyer to get
The Master Commissioner would not accept Kathy's expert deed preparer, but I had to pay him anyway.
attorney. Miss Britton is criticizing my attorney, Joe Wolf, for motioning freedom of speech should be permitted. The judge had ruled that we wouldn't have the right for freedom of speech.
On December the 2nd, he filed a motion to allow freedom of speech. On January the 4th,
What is beyond belief is that a judge would rule that I would not have freedom of speech.
Judge Masterton ordered us to have family counseling, but we were not allowed to talk to counselor.
Ryan Gardner's legal services were completely and solely for Kathy's benefit.
And have you paid Mr. Gardner?
I have.
And how much did you pay Mr. Gardner?
$1,225.
Kathy's expert proved to be incompetent, but Judge Masterton ordered me to pay his bill anyway.
To whom she is estranged, and everybody knows that. Say, give me back the car that you've been using, pregnant girl, and then she takes it and turns it in, and it's going to have, God knows.
Crystal Osborne shows her sadism in her abusive talk of a non-party. She should be disbarred. I filed a complaint in this court about Judge Masterton and Crystal's child and adult endangerment.
This is another example where the judge displays emotional discomfort. Throughout this hearing, the judge displays her anger and says that she's already made up her mind about the outcome of the trial.
And so, I'm just warning you about that. The other thing I'm warning you about is this is a trial date, period. We are going to start the trial in this case on Tuesday, November 16th, hell or high water. You've had plenty of time to figure this out. You had possibly the best financial consultant in this community to help you in Mr. Cranful. And somehow that didn't work out. You could have asked for this right away for another expert. You didn't. I am holding you to this trial date. Don't ask. Don't ask.
Several hearings show proof of this obstruction. See https Vimeo.com 224,990,237 as example of 1. Not my fault. But Judge Masterton ordered me to pay $152. Plus I had to pay attorney fees. This is one of dozens of criminal conspiracies Kathy generated and the judge aided and abetted her. Next clip shows the judge and plaintiff attorney conducted ex parte causing court order prejudice.
It's prejudicial and it makes no sense.
And I've explained this, that my reasoning was based largely on Ms. Britton's representation to me that this particular property is a barnacle on her ability to settle this case, to make because it is out there on Kathy's credit, and it hamstrings her from making an offer. That is what am I understanding that correctly?
Understood me correctly.
This is an example that shows how things are done in this court.
In this last clip, a criminal conspiracy to force the sale of this property was the hidden agenda. The judge displays a loss of contact with reality by stating she was violating the law by ex parte. Anita controlled the judge. Anita the judge and Kathy guilty of criminal conspiracy. The underlying conspiracy was to force the sale of Maxwell so I'd lose income to support our son. Statistical significant. No judge would say this. Judge Masterton does not believe law has meaning. Judge Masterton's rulings are results of her magical thinking.
Okay, the only issue I want to talk about today, let me be real clear about this, Ross. There's only one issue we're going to talk about today, and that is the Master Commissioner preparing and signing the deeds. That's all. Okay. What's your objection to that?
Well, I'm just asking why you derived that all
Judge
of a
Masterson
sudden.
denied my motion to close to be heard.
In this last clip, Judge Masterton's statement about me is an example of sexual harassment. It is incumbent upon all citizens to fight corruption, judicial terrorism, and sadism. Next clip, Judge Masterton exhibits a unique verbal posture showing her sadism. Listen carefully and you can hear her extreme distinct tone.
Yeah, but we don't need to do that in this case.
In this last clip, Judge Masterton denied my attorney's request for equalization. In this next clip, Kathy's attorney is caught laughing about how she and my attorney have colluded.
It would be the easiest thing to do is maybe have Linda make
those
and then just take our names off of it.
Okay.
They don't need us to sign them.
Well, that's true.
And court can enter it today.
That'll be fine. That work? Yes?
And then we have no responsibility here, Your Honor.
Excellent.
This clip evidences Judge Lucinda Masterton a financial serial killer.
Judge Lucinda Masterton is a financial serial killer.
Anything like
Well, my fear is that Ross is going to be a street person in a half a year.
Make no mistake about it. Judge Lucinda Masterton is a sadistic financial serial killer.
This shows an example of how the privileged escape justice.
Anne Catherine Lear Chatfield murdered her son and got away with it. It was a free kill.
Proof Anne Catherine Lear Chatfield had motive to kill her son. Anne Catherine Lear Chatfield had the opportunity to kill her son.
This clip you just saw, Journal of Forensic Psychiatry and Psychology, matches Kathy's personality.
But these perpetrators remain free to continue killing and killing and killing.
This next clip shows how Anne Catherine Lear Chatfield exploited me by virtue of her ownership in the corrupt court.
This movie clip provides proof of Kathy's timeshare fraud and crimes.
Copy of Kathy's forgery document demand.
The corrupt court issued a warrant for my arrest because I would not sign my name to forged document. So now I am a fugitive from injustice. This slide revealed how the terrorist court turned the law upside down. So, Judge Lucinda Masterton gives Kathy Chatfield the freedom to be a crook and murderer. Want to know why sadist serial killer Judge Lucinda Masterton placed a confidential seal on cases? The following clips show some of hundreds of reasons Masterton sealed her cases.
And I don't plan on showing it off to people,
You're not going to frame wallpaper your bathroom with copies of it? Is that
Right.
Judge Masterton laughs with Joe about wallpapering his bathroom with court records. Another example of why Masterton wanted to conceal her court terror. Bizarre behavior in Judge Masterton's family court was exhibited by attorney Martha Rosenberg. Judge Masterton said, by declining to be humiliated and assaulted, I lost my legal right to counsel.
It would be the easiest thing to do is maybe have Linda make
those
and then just take our names off of it. Because
Okay.
we don't need us to sign them.
Well, that's true.
And court can enter it today.
That would be fine. That work? Yes?
And then we have no responsibility here, Your Honor.
Excellent.
Masterton issued a warrant for my arrest as a means of coercion. Masterton wanted the case kept sealed was to hide her conspiracy to jail me. In her subpoena she said failure to appear and sign documents would lead to me being arrested. Masterton had ordered me to appear in a subpoena the day prior to the arrest warrant.
This case is all about client control. You must point to him, put a big red X where he is the sign, watch him sign it, make him sign it.
Throughout this case, Judge Masterton demonstrates her disregard for civil and legal rights.